This is a Rough Tiger production.
And you, and you, and you, and you were there. Some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful.
It's beginning to look. No, sorry. Christmas carols. It's tomorrow. Well, this is Trumpmas, right?
It is feeling a lot like Christmas, given what's gonna happen tomorrow. So, welcome to Dream Idiots, everybody. I'm Morris, and the feller over there with the blue windsock on his microphone, the stylish blue windsock, is Bryan.
It's the same windsock I have all the time. It's the same one. It's
it brings out the brown in your eyes.
Yeah, I like to be Smurfy at all times.
Each week we bring each other stories, which we share with you, the audience, here on Dream Idiots. And we do all kinds of stuff. We've been hearing a lot from listeners, had a lot of new downloads lately.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, can they find us at any cool places like websites and secret societies and temples and whatnot?
Yes, we are. Dream Idiots is the gateway to the Illuminati. No, we can go to dreamidiots.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram at Dream Idiots. We're on every single podcast platform out there. And so if you're listening to us, you're probably on one of them. If you don't mind, go on there and shoot us 5 stars. That helps us a lot climb the charts. And if you can give us a review too, that'd be fabulous. And actually, if you want to, well, this is one of the assignments I handed out either last week or 2 weeks ago. Many moons ago, Morris told the story of the expression in his family of getting what Lauderstein got, and I've shared other colloquialisms, family expressions, sayings that are unique to your family or your town, whatever. If you have anything like that, please send those along, either through Facebook, Instagram, or you can email us at dreamidiotspodcast@gmail.com. Because I stockpile these things and then I torture Morris with them occasionally. And I actually have 7 or 8 that have come in.
Oh, that's great. Good.
Of things that they're all new to me. And so I will rake Franklin over the coals with other expressions down the road. So send more in, please.
Do you have any updates for us on anything? Because I've got one that I want to share.
Updates. Those were my updates. I think that's it.
Okay. The one I've got is if you've been listening along, you know that my mother passed away a while back, and I've been thinking back about my relationship with my mother, and I was reminded recently of a book that she bought me when I was in high school. And I've been searching for this book, and I hope to find it. I don't know what happened to it. I may have sold it off a long time ago, but at one point, Brian, she bought me a book about Jimmy Stewart, because Jimmy Stewart was one of my favorite actors, right? When I discovered the golden age of movie idols, Jimmy Stewart was one of my still is one of my favorites, really. And she bought me this book when I was in high school called Jimmy Stewart and His Poems. And it was a collection of Jimmy Stewart penned poems that he had written, and it had a caricature of Jimmy Stewart on the front, like sitting in a rocking chair with a pipe, and he's reading his poems. Jimmy Stewart, his poems, and
this is an April Fool's joke. Obviously.
It is not an April Fool's joke. No. And I had this
Jimmy
book one
Stewart's
day.
poems. Okay,
right. And so I had it, and I took it to school one day, and this must have been junior or senior year in high school. And someone that we both know, a friend of ours, came up, and she didn't have her glasses on, and she said, "Why are you reading a book called Jimmy Stewart and His Penis?" I said, put your glasses on, hot
put
shot.
Put your glasses on, dumbass.
Put your glasses on, hot shot. Read it again. Oh, Jimmy Stewart and His Poems. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And so that started off this long bit about, yes, it's the first in a new series of books about golden age film idols and their genitalia. Book 2 will be Katharine Hepburn and her vagina. And book 3 will be Cary Grant and his testicles. And so I've been looking forward to finding that book and just reminiscing on the day that someone thought it was a book about Jimmy Stewart and his penis.
A real page turner. Spent 75 weeks on top of the New York Times bestseller. What?
Jimmy Stewart and his penis. Ah, yes. So that's my update. Continuing to reflect back on some of the funny stuff my mother has did in her lifetime, and
Mhm.
one of the ones that is, I don't think you've ever heard this story, but she was a hell of a basketball player when she was in high
I
school.
was very, very aware of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she had this rival at a local high school. I can't think of the town, but she was taken out one season towards the end of the season with what she says was a dirty play, and she was injured. And I believe that was her sophomore year. So her junior year, she came right back and immediately knocked this one girl out, just caught her with an elbow. And legend has it, the family story is that little girl grew up to be Jody Conrad, head coach of the UT
Oh,
women's basketball team. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've been told. And
that's funny.
my uncle put it in her obituary. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I've always been told that
Yeah.
story. And it
Yes.
seems like something she would do.
Well, I do. I mean, I don't. Obviously, I don't recall the particulars, but I do remember talking basketball with your mother on numerous occasions, and I do recall that she hated Joni Conrad. so,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it feels true, right?
Yeah, she spoke. At something I attended with my wife one time, and I was just really wanting to ask her about it, and I was like, "Please don't."
Right.
Do you
Ixnay.
remember my mom, Linda Plant from Lano High School?
Right. Shut up. Right.
All right, so
Yeah.
this is episode 63 of Dream Idiots. It's an odd number, and Bryan, you get to go first.
All right. And
What you got for us this week?
sorry for the little going off course there, going down memory lane for a moment, talking about people our listeners don't know, or at least most of them don't know. So little
But
detour.
hopefully you enjoyed it.
Right. So here's my story, and all will be revealed here shortly. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was a time of hope. It was a time of shattered expectations. It was a time of disgusting, sugary cereals. Cereals that my friends were allowed to have while I ate a metric ton of Cheerios, grape nuts, oatmeals, and mucilix, because if there's an umlaut in the name, it must be healthy. This was the time of free prize inside. For the purposes of this story, I'm focusing principally on the 70s and the early 80s. It was a heady time. We had Tron, the movie. We had the Electric Company singing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
And Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner always managed to escape harm. Crappy metal toys were gone. We had, for the first time, cheap plastic toys that never matched the picture on the box. It always managed to underwhelm. Nevertheless, we wanted them, all of them. The only time, as I recall, that we were allowed to eat, I was allowed to eat, possess, consume, inhale these awful pre-diabetic confections was on camping trips. We'd always stop somewhere on the way to some hellscape we were going to stay at and got the variety pack, maybe two. These packs would have had typically sugar corn pops, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms, the relatively benign Rice Krispies, and then a rotation of either Honey Nut Cheerios, naughty stepsister, and one other minor leaguer, maybe Count Chocula. But my memory probably isn't correct because I think they all had to be General Mills. So now I'm not totally sure. While I relished all that sugar, there was no fucking prize in any of those mini boxes. As you may recall, I presented the dangerous but fun toys that I failed to enjoy as a child back in episode 55. Now I offer the list of free prizes that never, ever, ever passed through my hands as a child. So the first one I'm going to drop in here just as kind of the initial honorable mention, Cracker Jacks. I like Cracker Jacks. I love them as a kid. I like them to this day. And that was one of the few things, obviously, because it wasn't a breakfast cereal, that I was allowed to have. And it was kind of a, kind of a luxury for, movies and things like that. All the Cracker Jack offerings in terms of toys were complete horseshit. And I would swear I had an ongoing collection of one of the things, because I'm sure it was cheap and it was easy to put in these boxes and didn't take up much space, is they always made the little temporary, you get them wet and apply them, a little temporary tattoo. And I had an ongoing collection of the one that was the Keep On Trucking dude. The guy looks kind of like Popeye with one leg out, kind of leaning back. I had like 6 or 7 of those. The point I got so many of them, I was just throwing them away. So my understanding is that Cracker Jack has done away with those prizes completely, and so those prizes are now long gone, a thing of the past. And some, I'm not sure whether Cracker Jack does, some cereal boxes now, because we are in the 2020s. In lieu of a prize inside, you have a QR code on the backs of some boxes instead, and you have to go online and request the toy. So just FYI, in honor of April Fool's Day, I'm gonna run down a list here of some of the offerings that were real toys over the many years that were free on or in cereal boxes. One of these is not true. One of these I made up for April Fool's Day. You get to figure out which one is the fake one.
You being me, I have to figure it out.
You being you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So yeah. So the last one, number 10. Well, you listen to these first 9, and I'll give you a chance to figure out if you can find the fake. Number 1, U.S. Navy frogmen in Kellogg's cornflakes. Coming in, there were 3 of these, the frogmen. There was the obstacles scout, the demolitions expert, and the torchman. Those are the 3 varieties. They were, I'm not really sure why these were a plaything in the 50s. I actually have a fairly clear memory of simultaneously being afraid and confused of frogmen. I think maybe as a small kid, I thought they were part man, part actual frog. Later on in, when I was 11, 12, 13, I think I read every single Hardy Boys book there was. And frogmen seemed to feature prominently because someone was being beaten up by frogmen all the time. Typically Fenton Hardy, the boy's father. So the first one is you could collect all 3 of the Kellogg's cornflakes frogmen. Selection number 2, free cash in every box. This is like the cheapest, simplest, easiest way to get people to, this is basically lottery mentality with cereal. In 1986, Almond Delight was one of those things that was sort of passed off like it was a healthy cereal. And I'd forgotten when I was researching this that one of the companies, I guess still, that makes a lot of cereal is Ralston Purina, the company that makes dog food. Almond Delight was a Ralston product, and their promotion said, "Psst, want cash? Free? Every box has cash." 1 box in every 43 would have a coin of some sort. It may be a penny, it may be a nickel, maybe a dime. And occasionally they would go up in value to $500, but the ones that were of higher value were obscure coins that would have that numeric value. It wasn't like they went through and actually crammed a $100 bill in one in every 100,000 boxes or whatever. You would find the valuable ones would be the 1973 Bolivian quarter, right? It's like, oh well, fuck you. Now I have now I have this piece of currency that I have no idea what to do with. So that was the offering from Almond Delight.
So would Ralston Purina, would they take whatever left over they couldn't turn into dog food and turn it into kids cereal? Is that
right? Yeah, you have to really hope that those were 2 separate manufacturing facilities, and they didn't use the same machines to make them both.
2 separate machines, but just one spout that comes out.
Right. There's a big lever somewhere labeled humans, animals. So someone has to switch it back and forth. Right. Number 3, Lice Krispies. For 6 months in 1948, Rice Krispies was changed to Lice Krispies, Lice, in order to more closely mirror how it is pronounced by Japanese citizens. Inside the box was a 3-inch plastic red rickshaw, and the rickshaw driver, it was said in the details, was a 12-year-old girl named Nora. Why is she named Nora, you might ask? Well, because it's short for Sayonara. Racism. Number 3, Rice Krispies. Number 4, the Alphabet's terrarium, because all children love yard work. In 1980, post-alphabet cereal enticed children to, quote, start growing your own garden with one of 3 different terrariums inside. You could grow basil, Fine Curled Cress, whatever the hell that is, or Violet Queen Alyssum, because kids love chores. Number 5, from General Mills, Monster Bike Spinner. So these were, there's a whole host of, there are dozens, probably hundreds of different things. This is one of the ones that was kind of interchangeable, but so I want to put one of these in here. You could get the 4 General Mills monsters. It looks like they're sitting in a little airplane with a propeller, and you can mount these little things on the handlebars of your bike, and you could get Frankenberry, Count Chocula, or Blueberry. Do you recall the fourth lesser known flavor? I gave you.
There's two more. There's Fruit Brute and Yummy Mummy.
Oh, you know more than I did. So Fruit Brute was the one I had never heard of before. And in the notes I found says the fourth lesser known one was Fruit Brute.
We polished off a box of Fruit Brute last Halloween here in the household. Yeah,
Okay.
They don't release Yummy Mummy anymore, but they do release the big three, and then the little brother of Fruit Brute. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
It's cherry flavored oat cereal with marshmallows.
That sounds awful.
Awful good.
Awful. I have diabetes just thinking about it. The next one, number 6, the Harlem Globetrotter whistle that was in Lucky Charms. I know you're a basketball fan. I love basketball as a kid. I loved the Harlem Globetrotters. I think all good-hearted, decent children loved them. I wanted to grow up to be Curly Neal. Or Meadowlark Lemon. Saw them, in San Antonio as a kid, down at the convention center arena. Love these guys.
I was a Washington Generals fan myself.
Oh,
so kidding.
Well, this prize, the Harlem Globetrotter whistle, is not a sticker of Curly Neal's name. This whistle would allow you to, as a 8-year-old kid, imagine you are the referee. So it's almost as bad as putting in a Washington General product placement, but yeah, everyone wanted to be the fucking referee.
You too can be Daryl Garrettson. It's great. It's just
right. The exact same item was marketed in cereal as well as the whistle from Dragnet, the exact same whistle. You could pretend to be a beat cop, I guess. I don't get what that was. Number 7, Honeycomb had commemorative state license plates. You could, this is in late 40s, very early 50s, because it says you can collect all 48. This is right before Alaska and Hawaii became states. And because children love forced labor. I don't know who made these things, but license plates for every single state, little metal things that have little holes you can attach to something, I guess your bike. Number 8, 1955, Quaker cereals on puffed rice and puffed wheat offered a, quote, real deed of ownership to 1 square inch of land in Yukon Gold Rush country. The prize was part of a promotion with a radio show. Quote, just sign your name to the deed and become owner of property in famous Gold Rush country. Those deeds are worthless today, but the boxes that they were on are sold on eBay for $15 or $20. So you can still actually find some of these boxes from collectors, etc. Number 9, records on cardboard. So I know you're a collector of vinyl. When I was a kid in my house, we certainly had a couple hundred albums belonging to my siblings and my parents that I managed to, over time, pilfer and sell you'd sell most of them off at used record places. There were some number of 45s. I recall vividly that there was the occasional 45 that would have been pressed in some funky different color besides just black. It would be orange or green or red. But occasionally there would also be, I think, just 45s, as I recall, that were basically, they're also brightly colored, but they were printed or embossed or whatever, etched into a piece of plastic that was basically a transparency. It was incredibly flimsy and
Yep.
usually square.
Yeah, they're
I
called
don't.
flexidiscs. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
really? So I don't know
Mhm.
whether those were like those had. They must have had a lower, shorter lifespan. You couldn't probably play them as many times before the grooves would just wear out. I don't really know.
Well, they often came as part of a book. You
Was
popped
that
them
where
out
they
of a
came?
book. Yeah,
Okay.
like Bloom County had one for Billy and the Boingers. If you remember the
Oh
rock band they
yeah.
formed, and they had
Okay.
a Billy and the Boingers flexidisc that popped right out of the like the big Sunday collection that they sold. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, cool shit. Yep.
So 60s and 70s, the someone's great idea was to take that embossing etching process and actually try to etch it straight onto the cardboard. So you could take the cereal box and get your scissors out and cut off the back of it, cut the record out, put it on your turntable, and it would play. There was the Monkees had at least one out. A band called the Archies had a tune called Sugar Sugar, and there were a few from the Jackson Five as well. And apparently it would work. I have no idea how good it sounded or how long it lasted. Probably sounded like crap, but anyway, it was definitely a marketing pitch there. And those boxes are unlike the other, that before I mentioned to you, the those cereal boxes can go for over $1,000 if you
Good
still had
Lord.
one. So anyway, so those were the first nine. Which one was the fake one?
Holy cow. They all sound so good, Brian.
So you have records on cardboard. You have the deed to 1 inch of land. You have the state license plates. You have the General Mills Monster Bike Spinner. You have the terrariums. You have the Rice Krispies. You have the free cash in every box, and you have the Frogman. Those are your 9 options.
Well, I mean, some of them are so ludicrous they've got to be real. So I'm just going to guess that the terrarium was the fake one.
The terrarium was real, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Three.
that one's not good.
Okay. How many guesses do you want?
Three would be good, right?
I'll give you 3. Okay.
Okay. Rice Krispies.
That was the fake one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was so outrageous it had to be real.
They did. That was just too crazy. I got amused with someone coming up with something that was that racist. They did actually have Rice Krispies did actually put in the a rickshaw as a toy. Like, seriously, what is your fucking problem? You don't get how that's not that's not cool. But
they didn't change the name.
No. There was no name change, and there was no 12-year-old
That-
girl named Nora.
That joke was all Bryan. Okay,
So
gotcha. Okay.
there you have it. So yeah. So one more free prize, and I had sent you. Well, actually, don't open it yet. I sent you an image. Before you look at the image, it's of a cereal called Pink Panther Flakes, and the prize that was in Pink
Lord.
Panther Flakes was a 5-in-1 spy tool. And so when I came up with the idea of telling this story or having this as a topic, I started researching this 6 months ago, and I saw this image, and I immediately had one thought tied to this image, and I kind of forgot about it. It came back to like a month ago, came across this image again, had the exact same thought again, and then was coming back to prepare to record today and found this image again yesterday, and had the exact same thought 3 times in a row. So now go ahead and look at that image.
Okay, we've got a traditional animated Pink Panther on the. Oh my God. Well, that's disturbing.
So the 5-in-1 spy toy, it says it does 5 things. Apparently, it has a magnifying glass, a secret message slot, a whistle, and a flashlight. Every single time I see that image, the first thought that popped in my head is Post Cereals selling sex toys, because that's what it fucking looks like to me. It's mentioned on a few different sites, and all of them only reference either 3 or 4 of the special things because it's a 5-in-1 tool. I swear to Christ, the 5th thing must be that it vibrates. And they
Well, it does have the little arm like prong things that come off that could definitely do something to somewhere to someone.
Yeah, like
yeah, that'll
Yeah.
get
yeah,
someone in.
Mommy, my toy has dead batteries every morning. I don't know.
We have ways of making you talk, and this is one of them.
Yeah. So the 5-in-1 spy kit, and it even says how it's worded: 5-in-1 spy kit in this box. I don't know, just awful. So if you're listening to this and want the visual, just Google Pink Panther flakes and look at the box and tell me if this is an innocent toy or not.
I was really hoping it would be like toenail clippings or skin tags from Peter Sellers, but
no, that'd be awful as well. So there you have it. Toys in cereal. There are more of these. I'll bring you down the road, and then at some point there is a version of this story this topic I'm gonna dive into called collect all 4. All the shit they tried to sell that McDonald's and Long John Silver's and elsewhere to get kids in the door, and it was all crap. But oh my God, we wanted that crap so bad.
The 2 that really struck with me were the Frogman one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a variant of those the submarines that they sold that you clip together and you could put baking soda in them, and it would dive and stuff as the baking soda reacted to the water, it would like go up and down in the tub like it was a real submarine. I could never get it to work. And then the other one were the monsters, of course, the General Mills monsters there, Count Chocula and his buddies. I actually got a set of somehow Anna sent away for 4 little replica statues from them that I got for Christmas that are now adorn my my man cave.
Nice. Okay.
4 main everybody but Yummy Mummy because
you can't find that, right?
He's a quitter or something. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, this is bringing back some flashbacks of fighting for those cereal boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, yeah, you obviously had parents that loved you because I was, grape nuts.
No, I ate a lot of grape nuts. I remember eating those, and then honeycomb was my big one, I think.
Oh, really? I have a very clear memory of going to certain friends' houses for sleepovers, and I was 8 or 10, and throwing open a pantry when we woke up in the morning, and expecting the golden light to come out because like fruit there'd be like 10 boxes of all the really good. Like, oh my God, where am I right now? Can I live here? Right. Yeah. So, oh well.
Fruity and Cocoa Pebbles, stand back.
Right. No one can live at this speed. So, there you go. Crap in cereal boxes.
Speaking of crap, what you got for us this week?
It's time for the Dream Idiots curse word of the week.
Okay, so the curse word for the first week of April is Connie, the woman's first name. Do you want to ask me why Connie is a curse word?
Connie?
Yeah.
It could also be a man's first name.
That's true. Connie Mack.
Conrad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Connie, I don't know. I have no idea why. I'm afraid to ask, but I guess I have to because that's kind of my job. So,
oh well, thanks for asking,
Brian. How is Connie a curse word, Brian?
Thanks for asking. A little bit of a story here. There's a gentleman named Jeff Leach. He is a Texas representative. He is a Republican. He is from Texas. He's from the Dallas area. He's a white man. He's Baptist. He has a wife named Becky and a son named Brady. He drives a truck, and he is he's a fungus in a suit, as far as I can tell. The Speaker of the House, a guy whose name always confuses me. I think it's Dade Phelan is the current Speaker of the House. Appointed good old Jeff Leach to be on the Committee on the Judiciary and Jurisprudence. And last week here in Texas, they had a hearing. If you wanted to make comments in a hearing, you can put your name on the docket And some of the names that were put on the dockets didn't actually rise to speak. And I'm going to let good old Jeff Leach take it from here.
Is there a Connie Lingus here? What about Anita Dickenme? Or Holden Middick? Okay. Are any three of those people here? All right. You got your moment. I hope you enjoy it. Does anyone else wish to testify on, for, or against House Bill 888?
There you go. Good old Connie. So
Phil McCrevis didn't show up. Where was Phil McCrevis?
Yep. Rod Clutcher was not there. Hey, would you blow me? He didn't show up either. I, as a general rule, don't like things that are just off color for the sake of being off color. But I just love that this guy, how aggressively tone deaf, or I don't know what it is, that you cannot be this stupid. I mean, but I guess you can. He looks at this name and doesn't realize what's happening. But anyway, that's today's GOP. They are just that stupid. But anyway, the same thing happened in Florida like a month ago, apparently, the exact same joke.
Well, on behalf of Connie's everywhere, I'm sorry. And with that, is it my turn, Brian?
It is your turn.
All right. This week, Brian, I'm going to ask you something real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the obvious, and what is obvious will become obvious in a moment. What do the following places have in common? Mannahannock Island, Hog Island, Varkins Island, Blackwell's Island, Welfare Island.
Well, they all have island in the name.
That's the obvious part, yes.
I'm gonna guess one of them is actually not, in fact, an island. No. Like Rhode Island is not an island. No.
Any idea?
No idea. I've heard of 3 or 4 of them.
Well, if you've heard of 3 or 4 of them, you've heard of all of them because it's all the same place. It's 5 different names for the same island.
Okay.
From Weird Places, one of the great Weird Places books, the 2005 edition. I'll tell you the current name of this island. Many residents of the 5 boroughs of New York City will tell you that they consider Roosevelt Island, a small strip of land in the middle of the East River between Manhattan and Queens, to be the strangest area of that strange city. The entire island has an air of mystery about it, right down to the shops that line its main street. They seem to be labeled only with such signs as Chinese restaurant and thrift store, like some faceless catalog of places. I mean, all you really need is Patrick McGoohan wandering around saying, I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, or debriefed. Yes, all those names I gave you were original names of Roosevelt Island before the name was changed in 1974. Mannahannock Island is what the Lenape called it. Hog Island is simply the English translation of Varkins Island, which is what the Dutch called it because wild hogs lived there. Blackwell's Island, and the Blackwell family controlled it until 1920. Then it was called Welfare Island for a reason that will come apparent here as I get into the history of it, from 1921 to 1973. It is a little island, as I said, in the East River, and it was changed to Roosevelt Island in 1974 in honor of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It's roughly 2 miles long, sitting there in the East River. And of course, did I mention that the East River is actually an estuary? It's not actually a river. This island measures roughly 800 feet across, so it's not that wide, and it measures some 147 acres. Some of the island lies right under the 59th Street Bridge and has a 2020 population of a little under 12,000 people.
Wow.
And if you were to compare it to Manhattan, it runs roughly from 46th Street to 86th Street in Manhattan. Now, one of the reasons I want to talk about Roosevelt Island is because it is a cool, strange little place. I had the opportunity to live there for about 2.5 years in New York City. And the way I described it to people was, it's like living in a small town right in the middle of New York. It is this, it's really an odd little place. It's changed a lot in the time since I've lived there, because I haven't lived there for quite some time now, 17 years. It's gotten more populous, more buildings, a lot more people have moved there. There's a lot more to do there. But it really is like no other place in New York. As I said, it is located between Manhattan and Queens. It's physically connected to Queens via a vertical lift bridge. If you drive over that bridge, it dumps you off in Astoria on Vernon Avenue. But a vertical lift bridge, basically the entire middle section of the bridge, rather than opening up like a drawbridge, the whole middle section just goes up as a unit, so ships can get underneath it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. That bridge opened in 1955. Until then, access to the island was granted via a very strange way. There was a trolley line. It was actually the last one in the city that ran over the 59th Street or the Queensboro Bridge from the 2nd Avenue in Manhattan to Queensboro Plaza in Long Island City. There was a midway stop right in the middle of the 59th Street Bridge, directly over the island, which was called Welfare Island at the time. And it led to either a series of stairs or an elevator, which would take you down to the island. So you would have to get off this trolley and go down these stairs to get to Welfare Island. There was also a steamer ship service to Roosevelt Island that left twice daily from 26th Street Dock near Bellevue, or later 70th Street, which is much, much closer, starting in the 1880s until 1955. And there's a reason for that when I mentioned Bellevue and 70th, because those are medical areas. Because why you would go there way back when, for the majority of the 19th and a good chunk of the 20th century, one didn't really have a reason to visit the island unless you were, say, sentenced to a prison term at Blackwell Penitentiary, which is an operation from 1832 to 1934. It was rife with corruption and was considered to be one of the worst prisons in existence. Most of the prisoners were eventually transferred to Rikers, which is now considered to be one of the worst prisons in existence. Or you might have a medical condition, which necessitated a stay at the Metropolitan Hospital from 1894 to 1955. Guess what they specialized in?
Mental health.
Tuberculosis.
Oh.
Good old TB. Now, you mentioned mental health, Bryan. I don't know how you knew that was coming, but you might fall into the unfortunate category of being insane. And you might stay in the, and how's this for a name? The New York City Lunatic Asylum. That was
straightforward.
That is very straightforward. It's very New York. It is what it is. 1839 to 1894. Or if tuberculosis, insanity, or being a prisoner wasn't enough, or maybe, just maybe, Bryan, you were one of the lucky few who had smallpox. You would stay at the smallpox hospital, which was open from 1856 to 1875. But as conditions improved, as we came up with better health solutions, a lot of these places got reused. The smallpox hospital, for example, was converted into housing for nursing students because there was a nursing school there on the campus as it changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as things went about into the 1950s, we see the city start to change. In 1955, the steamer ship stopped, the bridge opened that connected it physically to Queens, and by the late 60s, they were starting to look at ways to make it a place where you could actually live. The various clinics and hospitals had fallen into ruins, so they started making plans for opening the island up to residential living. And it actually opened for residents in 1976. The Main Street Design Building it overlooks all these large stone concrete buildings overlook the main street. It's kind of like a reverse panopticon. You stare down onto Main Street. The design plan was from John Burgee and Philip Johnson. Does that Philip Johnson name ring any kind of familiarity with you? You've been in a Philip Johnson building before.
Philip Johnson.
Believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay, he designed the Chapel of St. Basil at the University of St. Thomas in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where my wife Anna and I were married. She was a student at University of St. Thomas. He's kind of a postmodern architect. The original plans that were drawn up in the 60s had this really, I don't want to, it was a kind of a postmodern modernist concrete brick style. What also opened in 1976 was the Roosevelt Island tram, which is probably the best known image of Roosevelt Island. It connects the island of Manhattan to Roosevelt Island via a large cable system at 2nd Avenue and 60th Street. And what these are two large cable cars that hold several passengers all at once. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's probably about 50 people each, maybe a little bit more. And they are synchronized to where they will meet at some point in the middle as they transverse the city. It is a 4-minute trip of bliss. It is quiet. You get wonderful views up and down the East River. And it was originally conceived as a temporary solution to getting folks to and from the island. But it proved so popular that it remained open and serves as both a means of transportation and an ongoing symbol of Roosevelt Island. It's also appeared in a few movies: Spider-Man, Turk 182, Nighthawks. It shows up every now and then in TV shows like CSI. There's a murder committed on the Roosevelt Island tram. Yeah. The MTA subway began operation in 1989. The island is currently served by the F train running between Queens and Manhattan. There's also a relatively new ferry service. Originally, they had planned this beautiful waterfront dock where ships could come in on the western edge of the island facing Manhattan, but the water was so rough in that channel, they couldn't do it. So there's a ferry service that runs from the Colmar East Channel on the other side of the island to Manhattan. And that's brand new. That's within the last few years, I think. I never experienced that. As of this year, 2023, Roosevelt Island has multiple new housing options, including the Southtown area where we lived 20 years ago, one of which is dedicated solely to the employees of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center that's located on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. New restaurants and shops have opened, and a good portion of the island's southern tip is occupied by the campus of Cornell Tech. This is a joint project between Cornell University and Technion, the Israeli Institute of Technology. The only hotel on the island is located right in that area too. It's called The Graduate. I think I sent you a picture from our hotel room when we were there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, sure.
I can highly recommend this hotel. It's fantastic. And at the very southern tip is one of the last projects designed by Louis Kahn. This was designed from 72 to 74. It could not get enough funding back then, but it was finally completed. Construction began in 2010. That's all. It took 36 years to get this thing off the ground. Damn. It was completed and dedicated in 2012. It's called the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Four Freedoms State Park, a 4-acre park celebrating the president's four freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from fear, and freedom from want, one of his famous speeches from 1941. It's a beautiful little park. And there are no less than 6 officially recognized landmarks on this little island. Number 1 is the Renwick Lighthouse at the northern tip of the island. It's been there since the 1870s. Number 2, remnants of the New York City Lunatic Asylum has been incorporated into new living space for residents. It's called the Octagon. It's a lovely little octagon-shaped building. Number 3, the Blackwell House, which was the clapboard home of, I believe, the Blackwell family. The Chapel of the Good Shepherd, an ecumenical Christian church built in 1888. We've actually been to Easter services there. The Strecker Laboratory, it's a pathology lab, which was there for the Charity Hospital at the southern tip of the island. And also at the southern tip of the island, the Smallpox Hospital ruins are down there as well. I've left out a lot of weird stuff about Roosevelt Island. There are some hidden statues that are they're right off the shore, and they're only available at certain times of the day, depending on when the tide is coming in the estuary. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can only see them at certain times of day. There's a new series of statues at the northern end next to the lighthouse. It's not like competing with Broadway shows or going to live music in New York or going to Central Park. But if you're ever in New York and you're looking for something to do on a quiet afternoon, go over to Roosevelt Island and check it out. You can not only have great views of Manhattan from the taller buildings, but you have wonderful views into Queens as well. You can see all up and down the 59th Street Bridge, up all the way to the northern tip of Manhattan, to the southern tip past the UN buildings. From our hotel room, we could see the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building. From our son's hotel room, you could see all of those plus the UN building. It is a strange little area right there in the heart of New York City. And
Nice.
I am really glad I live there. And you also see it in the beginning of a lot of movies.
Mm.
There's anytime you see the 59th Street Bridge, you're going to see mysterious Roosevelt Island. Because I remember looking out at it in Manhattan thinking, who lives there? What do they do over there? What goes on Roosevelt Island?
Mhm.
It is such a strange little place. And I'm glad I live there. Some folks who lived there in the past included Buddy Hackett,
Oh, nice.
lived on Roosevelt Island, Al Lewis, Grandpa Munster lived there, and UN President Kofi Annan lived there. So
Oh,
if you
nice.
want to picture a conversation between Kofi Annan and Buddy Hackett someday, knock yourself out. It is a interesting, odd little part of New York. Used a lot of sources for this in addition to Wikipedia for basic facts. I used Judy Bairdy's book that was written with the Roosevelt Island Historical Society, 2003, Images of America, Roosevelt Island from Arcadia Press of Charleston, South Carolina. Chris Gethard's 2005 book, Weird New York from Sterling Publishing in New York. The For Your Information columnists of the New York Times, 1999, The Curious New Yorker from Random House. The same group of people, the FYI columnists of New York Times, 2004, Only in New York from St. Martin Griffiths. The New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission of 2004, New York City Landmarks, third edition, John Wiley and Sons, Hoboken, New Jersey, and the website for the Roosevelt Island Historical Society. And that's it. And that's my story on the strangest area in that strange city.
And I actually have one other tidbit about the one other thing I know about Roosevelt Island, which I was anticipating you were going to say. I heard this recently and meant to mention to you offline, but then forgot. At some point, I don't know when exactly. I don't know what the charges were, but I think early in her career, Mae West was an inmate at that
Yes.
jail on Roosevelt Island, and they offered her the chance to go somewhere more comfortable or have parole or something. Or she was given a chance to back out of it, but she wanted to go there because it was going to be great press for whatever she was doing in New York at the time. And so I think she was there for a fairly short period of time as sort of the celebrity inmate at the jail. But I have no idea what she was in there for.
Yeah, Nellie Bly spent some time over there as well.
Okay.
The journalist Nellie Bly. There's a statue dedicated to her, not a statue, but a sculpture dedicated to her. I believe it's her at the northern tip of the island now. That's brand new. I haven't seen it yet.
Wait.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm guessing there are some people who've lived all their lives in New York and not been over there because you just
Right.
just look
You don't
at it
think
and
of
think,
it.
the hell's over there? Yeah.
Right.
And they have a lovely little farmers market. There's a school over there. I mean, people. Oh, you see it in the beginning of City Slickers too. It's
Okay.
Billy Crystal's character lives on Roosevelt Island, and you see him commuting to work on the tram. Now, I will say that it was pretty terrifying. Anna missed the tram by she didn't miss it, but she was coming home when she was pregnant, and she missed the tram or didn't make it, or she got on it later. She had to come on by subway the night that it was stuck over the East River for hours and hours and hours. She missed getting on it by that much. Ended
While
up
she
coming
was
home.
pregnant.
Yes, ended up coming home on the F train. So, yeah. Yep. Had a woman faint on me during Ramadan because she hadn't eaten for hours and hours on the tram overlooking. All of a sudden, there's someone just collapsing on me. Splendid time is guaranteed for all on the Roosevelt Island tram. Good times.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. That's super cool.
I guess that's it from my end over here.
Yep. Another one in the books. 63. We're cooking along. Thanks for listening, folks. As I said at the beginning, if you can go online and shoot us 5 stars, shoot us a review, that'd be fabulous. Shoot us your family's catchphrase or expression that no one's heard, and we'll include it down the road. Sometime this summer probably. And we appreciate everything you're doing for us.
Yes, indeedly diddly. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much. Be good to each other.
This is a Rough Tiger production.
Bong bong.
Mhm.
Bryan?
Bong bong?
Bong bong.
Bong bong. Good.